My next guest is a computer scientist and an artificial intelligence and self-driving car expert. Raquel Urtasun is the CEO and founder of Waabi. She and her team have developed an artificial intelligence brain, which it calls Waabi Driver, and a simulator called Waabi World, meant to make the testing of self-driving cars safer, easier, and faster. I spoke to her a short while ago. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
You've been a leader in this industry for a long time. Let's start with a big picture question. Where is the AV industry right now, and where do you see it going in the next 2, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, so I think that the industry has made meaningful progress over the last 2 decades. But when you look at commercialization, right, it's very far from the promise of self-driving everywhere. So we see very small, very simple operation domains. And the reason for this is really due to the technology employed that doesn't scale, right? So what we need to have is a really big step change in terms of the type of technology to really achieve commercialization at the scale. And that's what we're trying to provide with Waabi, with an AI-first approach. And that's what will shape the future to be very different from what it is today.
Tell us about Waabi World and Waabi Driver, and how does AI fit into all this?
Yeah, so if you look at what is preventing the industry from scaling today is twofold. First is the approach to autonomy, right? The software, the brain that drives the vehicles. That is a very hand-engineered approach that is very brittle. And the second problem is the need for very large fleets to test whether that technology is ready or not ready to be deployed. This makes it very capital intensive. This makes it that you need very large teams, right? We've seen burn rates of, $1+ billion per year, right? Which is crazy. So what we need really is look at, modern technologies that are, not robotic centric, but AI centric, right? You look at, for example, what's happening with ChatGPT, right? So bring the same kind of, breakthrough to self-driving. And for this, you need this, AI-first approach. And with Waabi Driver is our answer to the autonomy problem, where basically, we have an approach that is end-to-end trainable, which means that it can automatically learn from data. So it can learn to, do much more complex decision-making processes that, can solve all the rare cases and things that might happen on the road. At the same time as we need a way to train the system and test the system at the scale. That's where the simulator comes, right? This revolutionary generative AI technology that we developed, where you can really mimic the entire world in the way that you can test, everything in simulation, so that your fleet that you need is only for validation and verification. That's a huge breakthrough in this industry. So with Waabi World, as well as which is the simulator, as well as Waabi Driver, our revolutionary, I would say, autonomy system, we are really bringing what is that next generation of technology to market, so that you can really build something that you can commercialize at the scale. And that's the biggest step change that you need.
Well, when you're talking about new technology in any field, there's always going to be some fear. What do you tell about people? Because obviously people are concerned about the safety ramifications. How do you allay not only people, but politicians who make the laws?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So very, very important to, that in order to be able to both develop and deploy technology is the education of the public. As an academic, this is something that I actually care a lot about. Mm-hmm. Transparency, right, in everything that we do, so that people understand what our technology is, what can do and what can't do. Now, as it relates to safety, I think the thing that is actually very exciting is that our approach is actually clearly differentiated from a safety perspective, meaning that because we can do, most of our development on the simulator, we actually reduce tremendously the risk of developing this technology, right? So you can do it on the cloud. You can actually test the system, with safety critical situations, with accidents, etc. Something that you can't do in the real world. So by the time the system actually touches the ground for the first time, it's actually super performant. And that's a very differentiated approach in terms of development of this technology compared to what you see in the industry today, where it has been a test first. Let's go on the road. Let's see whether the system performs versus not. So from that perspective, safety is really imprinted into everything that we do. And with our, AI first approach, it's also, generalizes better to all these situations. So it's actually safer. Now, in terms of, you mentioned the regulators, right? So one of the things that I'm very excited potentially to do in the future is that, our cutting edge simulator could actually potentially be used to test every single autonomy system, every single company, to see whether they are ready to go, to deploy without a driver on the road. So potentially could be the tool that the regulators could use to really understand the performance of every single autonomous system. So from that perspective, I think, potentially we can enhance, regulators, because right now, they don't have necessarily all the tools to understand, who has technology that is safe versus not safe.
A lot of people, including me, until I did some research and our staff sent me some research on this, you think about this in the context of self-driving cars, but you're working on self-driving trucks. That's pretty significant. Is the technology different? Are the challenges different? And when will we have self-driving trucks?
Yeah, great question. So, the reason why we are doing trucking is really twofold. First is that, trucking is at the backbone of the economy, and we have a very disruptive supply chain that is really preventing us from doing, as a country, I would say, from doing many, many things, right? And if you look at, what is the solution to the disruption of the supply chain, it's not going to be more human drivers, because the chronic shortage is just increasing significantly, particularly after the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So we need automation. And that's very, very clear to everybody. It's the only way to actually get to really realize and be able to move all the goods that we need across country. At the same time, if you look at from the perspective of technology, driving is mostly driving on highways, which are more structured, simpler than driving in our cities, where there is different level of complexity, I will say. So these two things make trucking a very clear first application for Waabi. However, the technology that we are building is technology that can be applied to robotaxis, last mile delivery, etc. But right now we are very, very focused on bring a product to market. This product is going to save many, many lives as well, right? So be able to deploy that, and then we can expand to other different applications afterwards.
And as driving trucks is a very dangerous occupation, but obviously there's some concern about what's the effect on the workforce and jobs. What do you say to those concerns?
Yeah. So we are not trying to displace jobs. We are trying to enhance them, right? There is a lack of, there is many, I would say, jobs that cannot be fulfilled with humans. So we need an alternative way to be able to provide, those trucks, say, to fleets and shippers, right? So that they can actually, go around their business. And if you look at, some of the conditions that humans have within these jobs, right? If you are a long haul trucker, if you have to go, half your, half of your journey, say half of the year on the road, it's very hard to have a family. Sometimes the conditions are not great. They don't even have access to showers, right? So sometimes it's below what you will want any human to actually have, right? So that's the kind of job that we are trying to automate, right? Without really removing jobs from any humans, right? It's more about how can we add additional capacity to the network so that, we don't have supply chain issues. Mm-hmm. And then, later on, we will, things will evolve naturally. But we are not, every person that is a truck driver, we want them to retire as a truck driver.
Where are we internationally? Obviously, the United States focuses on the United States and progress here. Where are other countries with this technology? Are we behind? And are there any countries that, it's kind of out of left field, but I would imagine some countries could see this as a possible military issue where they would need self-driving. I mean, we're not there yet, obviously, but where are we kind of on the international front?
Yeah. So I would say that the United States is definitely at the forefront of self-driving in general and trucking in particular. I will say that, you have, multinational companies like Waabi that has, US and Canadian presence. I think there is, a lot of activities in China. It's hard to say, how much of that is according to safety standards, etc. But there is definitely a couple of players that, over there that, are definitely pushing technology. And then there is, I would say, secondary market in Europe where there is a few companies, developing this technology as well. But I would say the US is at this point at the forefront. And the question is, how to potentially keep that, in the foreseeable future.
Based upon the progress which you've touched upon on AVs, I mean, do you see that in 10 years, the world is going to be drastically different than it is now on this issue?
Yeah, so definitely on the 10-year horizon, I think it will be. And definitely I have spent the last, 25 years of my life really trying to push this technology so that's the case. But I think the one thing that is important for people to understand is that it's not going to be like suddenly this is solved and then you see self-driving everywhere, right? It's going to start with small operation domains and then growing. And what we need really is building technology that can scale so that you can really deploy larger and larger footprints in terms of geographically. But it's not something that, from one day to the next, suddenly the world has changed.
Raquel, just my last question. Anything I asked that, anything I didn't ask that you'd like to tackle?
I think you touch upon regulation, you touch upon technology and the use case. I think maybe to summarize, a little bit what I mentioned, I think might be worth for the audience, which is that, we've seen, great progress in self-driving, but the canonical approach has hit a wall. We need, revolutionary AI-first technology that can really bring, solve all the different things that might happen on the road, right? Bring the performance of the systems to the next level. And, very, very exciting to bring this technology and really deploy, around, in the United States, which is, our main focus of operations right now. But I think it's important to know that, innovation is necessary to bring this technology. It's not just an engineering challenge, which I think is a little bit of what has made this, a winter of AV, if you wish, that, this technology is, is not there. It's because, we need to bring something different and, very excited for us to be that provider, that next generation technology. And at the end of the day, it's going to really have tremendous positive impact, not just in tracking and logistics, but also, bringing, safety to our roads. There is 2 million people that die every year on the road, right? So that's very exciting. And also, pair with alternative, fuels, electric, etc. I think it's going to be a much more sustainable future that I would love to see very soon.
Well, you have a fascinating occupation and a fascinating company. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.